Hi Stampers, this is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs, and for today's project I'm going to be showing you how to make your own embossing folder using the butterfly thinlits dies. You can see that I've made my own embossing folder here by cutting several butterflies and gluing them to a piece of cardboard that I found on the back of my designer paper. And that's actually what the butterflies are cut out of also, is the same cardboard. So you end up with 2 layers of cardboard when creating your own folder. And what we're going to do with this folder is create our own background. And I've got 2 samples to show you today. I did it on Bermuda Bay cardstock to show you, and this is what it looks like. Try to hold it up there for you to see. It actually does the embossing of the butterflies, and if I flip it over, you would have the debossing part of it. For the card that we're going to make today, I used watercolor paper, and you can see my butterflies in the background, and I've also included a butterfly cut out of rich raspberry cardstock. So let's get started. For supplies, you're going to need the cardboard that you find in the back of your designer paper. I always save mine because I do a lot with this stuff. You're also going to need a scrap paper for the rich raspberry butterfly that we're going to cut out. You're going to need a piece of watercolor paper, 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Pear Pizzazz baker's twine, about 36 inches. Pear Pizzazz cardstock, and this will be our card base, which will be 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored in the center at 5 1/2. And you'll need a smaller piece, 1/2 inch by 4 inches, and that's what we're going to stamp our sentiment on. Okay, I've just brought in my Big Shot, and what I'm going to do is place my cardboard piece from my designer paper as my first layer. I am going to put a piece of wax paper on top of the cardboard just so that the butterfly will pop off easier. And all Big Shots are different. With mine, I actually need to, when I put my cutting plate on top, I need to apply a little bit more pressure on my butterfly, so I use another piece of cardboard from my designer paper as a shim. Just put it on top and run it through. And this just gives it a little bit more pressure so that it cuts out better. So we're going to pull this off, the wax paper. And now I'm going to use my paper piercer and just poke the little holes that are on the edge of the butterfly just to get it going. And flip it over. And you don't need to pop any of the little pieces out because when you're embossing, I wanted the full butterfly, so I keep all the little pieces intact. And all I did was use the fast fuse glue, and I just added glue to the underside of my butterfly, and then I just placed them wherever I wanted on my cardboard piece. And my cardboard piece does measure the quarter size of a card, so it's 5 1/2 by 4 1/4 inches. And then when I put the butterflies that overextended, I just trimmed the edges. So I have 1, 2, 3, I think I had 4 butterflies cut out to complete my embossing plate. Now we're going to emboss our sheet of watercolor paper. And what I've done with my embossing folder that I just made, I flipped it over and I added all the items I need for my sandwich. And we're not going to be using the magnetic plate this time for the embossing. We're actually going to use our platform, and we're going to be using tab 1. So make sure your platform is set on tab 1. And the next one is your cutting pad or plate. Your embossing folder that we just made. Your cardstock, or in this case would be the watercolor sheet of paper. And to give a better impression, I'm going to be using my silicone mat. So that's going to go on top of my watercolor. And then I'm going to have my second cutting pad or plate. And I also cut 2 more pieces of the cardboard from your designer paper. And I cut those 5.5 by 4 1/4, and I'm going to put those on top. And you may need to use one less or even more than what I'm using. You'll have to experiment. So again, it's going to be platform, tab 1, cutting plate, embossing folder, watercolor paper, silicone mat, clear plate number 2, and my 2 shims. And make sure your shims are directly over where your embossing folder is sitting. So we're going to run those through. And voila, this is my embossed panel. It's so hard for me to show this white piece, but you can kind of see all the butterflies there as I show them to you at a side view. I also wanted to show you another embossing folder that I made myself, and this was with one of the flower punches, and it works the same way. I used cardboard with a cardboard backing, and again I put what I needed for layers on the back. Now we're going to bring in our rich raspberry scrap piece of cardstock, as we're going to cut out a butterfly for the card front. And if you'll notice, this butterfly has a lot of detail to it. And I'm going to show you an easy way to cut him out with very little fuss. So let's bring our big shot back in. And what I'm going to do is cut the butterfly like you normally would. And again, because my big shot is not applying enough pressure in the center of a butterfly, I'm going to use a shim. And I actually keep the shim in my, I'll show you in a minute here, in my clear case with my butterfly basics. I have a magnetic sheet here, and I keep all my butterflies in there, and then I keep the shim right in there so it reminds me to use it. This is 4 dryer sheets that I used to get all the guts out of the butterfly, and I'll show you how to do that. I'll start with a fresh set of dryer sheets. You're going to need 4 of them, and you open them up and you stack them on top of each other, all 4. Once that's all stacked neatly, you're going to fold it in half so you actually have 8 layers of dryer sheets once they're folded over. And what we're going to do is come back with our big shot. And we're going to take the butterfly away from the cardstock, leave all the little pieces on the inside, flip it over on top of the dryer sheet, and place your cutting pad on top. And we're going to roll this through. And now when you remove the butterfly, it's going to be stuck into your dryer sheet, and all you do is peel it, and all the little pieces stay intact on the dryer sheet. And your butterfly smells really good also. And again, I keep my dryer sheet right inside my clear case with my shim and my butterfly framelit, so they're all together, and when I use them I know where to find everything. Now we're going to assemble our card. So I'll fold my cardstock base in half and crease it with my bone folder. I'm going to take my baker's twine, and of course there's a knot in it. Hold on. Sorry about that. I just had to leave for a second to take the knot out. And what I'm going to do is wind this around 3 times. And then tie a double knot towards the bottom of my cardstock layer. And then I'm just going to move them all to the same spacing on the end. So I'm about 3/4 of an inch from the end. And now we're going to trim our ends. And I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals to pop this layer. Just going to put about 5 of them. And we'll place this directly in the center of our cardstock piece. And now we're going to glue our butterfly in place. And what I'm going to do, I have a little piece here right from the edge, and that's the perfect width so that none of this shows through when you glue it in place. So I'm going to glue my butterfly right there. And now we're going to stamp our sentiment using the Pear Pizzazz ink. And I'm using the sentiment from the Sheltering Tree stamp set, You Warm My Heart. And I'm also going to flag my ends. And the easiest way to do that is to go halfway and then do the V from each end. And again, I'm going to use the little skinny strip off of the Stampin' Dimensional sheet. These are perfect for skinnier layers. And I'm going to put that right in the center of my butterfly. And then I'm going to add a few rhinestone jewels. I'm going to bring in my first card to add those to my first card also. And I use my paper piercer to lift them up. It's just a lot easier this way. And you really only need to add a few just to give it a little bit of bling. And there you have it. That completes both of my cards. And again, I'm trying to show you the embossing. It's really, really nice in person. It's just hard to capture on my video. I seem to have a lot of sunlight in my stamp room today, and it's just throwing me off a little bit. I hope you enjoyed all my tips today, and I'll also have a list of supplies at the end of the video. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good day.